Today we're in the iconic westerly village of Watch Hill. Watch Hill has been an upscale tourist destination for over 100 years. The village is famous for its grand Victorian hotels, large summer cottages, magnificent beaches, and the historic Watch Hill Lighthouse and Watch Hill Flying Horse Carousel. Olga Goff grew up in post-World War II Watch Hill at the Mesquamaket Inn, which her family owned. This is her story.
Good morning, everybody. Tom Galuscio here, president of the Westerly Historical Society, with our continued program called Reflections, an oral history project sponsored by the Westerly Historical Society. And this morning I have the pleasure of introducing Olga Goff. Good morning, Olga.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us today.
Well, this will be fun.
It's going to be
It's always
plenty of fun.
to share a little history.
Good. So, Olga, tell us about how you came to be.
I came to be, first off, my grandfather came from Italy in 1901 from a small town between Milan and Lake Como. And he came here after being an apprentice in Italy. He was a sculptor, and he came to Cadori's quarry and worked there throughout his whole life. So he was born in 1877 and he died in 1945. So his whole life was at Cadori's. And there is quite a bit about him in the granite book that was done here.
We'll have to look for it.
Yep. So my mother came, she was the first one here. My father came to Watch Hill in 1916 when my aunts came down to have a picnic. We'd driven down from Massachusetts and found out about what was called the Mesquamaket Inn. At the time, it was called the Farmhouse, and it was part of Potter's Farm, which was it's the second oldest house in Watch Hill. It was built in 1778.
What was the address?
Mesquamaket Road, which is now Foster Cove. So the house itself, the farmhouse, had three other buildings on the right-hand side, two on the right and one across the street. One was the laundry, and the others were servants' quarters, people that worked at the inn. And then the other two were rental cottages. Well, there was only one, because they then they had the first Sears and Roebuck's prefab house. It's called Cherry Lodge, and it's very well known in Watch Hill. Everybody loves Cherry Lodge. And so they ran it until the 30s, and as a small inn, and the same people would come back year after year and spend practically the whole summer. We had some very interesting guests come, and actually there was an article not long ago about a man in the Westerly Sun, and his name was John Hernan Rhodes.
I'm not familiar.
And there was just a big article, and it talks about how he and his wife stayed at the Mesquamaket Inn, and he had these rare antique jewelry shows there and stuff like that. It was a really fun place to grow up as kids. Very interesting, older people. We really didn't have any young guests usually. They were very well taken care of there. And so it's very much a part of my life, and amazing people. And actually, Dr. Rayner at one point worked at the inn. There were quite a few local people that worked there.
Okay.
So then my aunts, when they moved out, they moved to a house on East Avenue, which I think might have been part of the Smith families.
Okay.
That beautiful house on the right-hand side, obviously one of the original ones, right past the hospital, Wells Street.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I know the house.
Right.
Yeah.
They lived in there until the 50s when they both had passed away. We were all born, my sister Margaret Ann, who was named after the two aunts because they would get jealous if my mother named one after the other. They were a little cranky, the two old aunts. And then my brother John and myself, and we were all born at Dr. Anderson's hospital.
Okay.
And from there, we spent our winters here. We spent all our winters here, actually, and our summers. And Then we went to the local schools. My brother and sister went to Immaculate. I was sort of scattered around and then ended up at Immaculate, and we all went off to boarding school after the 8th grade.
Where'd you go?
I went to Sacred Heart, which was in Providence at the time, and moved to Portsmouth, and that has since closed down. My brother went to Canterbury in New Milford, Connecticut, and my sister went to Marymount in Tarrytown, New York. Yeah. So, and the inn was closed in the winter, closed right after Labor Day. It opened up, we would reopen Memorial Day weekend for friends. It was the Marstons, the Snowdens, people coming up to open up their own houses. And that was just the best weekend. The whole place was full of just friends.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was great. As I said, we had one man that used to stay with us every summer, and he was the editor of Newsweek magazine. One of the waiters at the inn was hired by him, and he became some sort of editor at Newsweek.
Oh, no kidding?
Yeah, moved to Washington.
Oh, what luck.
And then, right, exactly. Well, a lot of them really did have luck. They lucked out with good jobs. Then my mom took on some seminarians from the place in Warwick Neck, because she figured they didn't date, they didn't stay out late, and they listened to her. So there were only 4 or 5 of them, and they would come and spend their summers, and that went on for quite a few years. We did have one man that lived with us year-round by the name of Tommy Lee, and he was with us for years. He was part of our family, really.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was terrific. He was a character. So he took care of us year-round. And then in the summer, for years, we had a chef by the name of Bus Gardner, who was a Narragansett Indian. And so, of course, I would go to the powwows with Bus every year, and I was like, this was the best day of the summer to do something like that with him. But he worked with us for years. And his son was Ronnie Gardner, who was the musician who moved to Sweden years ago.
Sure.
It was a very interesting family.
So you've met Rodney, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And actually, not that many years ago, when I was in New Zealand, I read something online about how he was doing some sort of music thing for people with like whatever it is, ALS or one of those, some sort of drumming thing. So I contacted him, and he wrote me a wonderful long letter, mostly about his father, how, spending the summers with us and stuff like that. So it was interesting. So then, from boarding school, my sister went on to college, my brother went on to Georgetown. I went on to a finishing school. I wasn't really the perfect student in the family.
Needed a little polishing first.
I was there to have more fun than I was to study, and I did have fun. I then went into New York City, lived with my sister. Lived at the Barbizon Hotel at first, and went to Mrs. Moon's finishing school, which closed shortly after. As my mother said, they finished me off and I finished them off. And from there, I just took a job in New York, and that was it. So I really never went to college.
Okay.
I always thought I wanted to be a vet, and the nuns told me to forget that it never happened. So I've just taken in strays all my life since then. And I met Lonnie, in 1962 or 3. He came to Watch Hill with Spencer Gray, the old tennis pro. Do you remember Spencer?
I don't.
The old tennis pro at the Misquamicut Club. And Lyman was at Princeton at the time, and he came for his summer job, and that was it. I mean, we started dating and got married in 1965.
You mentioned earlier about your family leasing the house with some stipulations in Watch Hill.
Oh, the house, the farmhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's for $1,000.
Okay.
I have the lease, and it was $1,000 with the stipulation that they put in 2 bathrooms, new flooring, new wallpaper, and put a path from the Westerly Road to the Misquamicut Inn.
Wow.
And then the next year they purchased it, and I don't know how much they purchased it for. But that's when the trolleys would drop you off, and I know it was just a dirt path to the house. So if you came by train or whatever, you took the trolley down and walked through the dirt path to the inn.
Sure.
And of course, after that, then the buses came along and the taxis. We had Ollie Stoddard, who had a taxi in Watch Hill for years. But most of the people that stayed at the inn had chauffeurs. And they would put the cars at Barbara's garage at night, or they would Holdridge's, and then they all lived like over the livery and over Holdridge's garage. So when my mom decided to close the inn, my father died in, when did he die? He died in the 50s. My mom decided to keep the inn for a few years. And then she leased it to the Snowdens when they sold the Pink House.
Okay.
Because if it closed, it would zoning would change. It was so non-conforming.
Yep.
So she kept it, the Snowdens charged their house guest $1 a night, so it stayed open as an inn. And then in I think 1968, my brother and his wife Tina took it over and converted it into a private house. Okay. And has been there ever since.
Okay.
So the property is still all in our family, except one of the houses we sold to Jordy and Kathy Moore. Yeah, it was a great place, but you know, I was thinking about it the other day, about our life in the summer in Watch Hill, and how we spent so much time in the village. And my really good friends was Terry Pierce, whose mother was Mrs. Harkness, Susie Snowden, and there was just this little clique of us, the Hemingway family, all the Hemingway kids, and we were all the same age. And the village had so much to offer all of us, from the funny little gift shops to the drugstore, to the Greek grocery store on the corner, to Fiore's Market. You know, it's just sort of fun to hang out in the village. And there was Harvey's gift shop, and we used to have our little games, because Harvey's gift shop owner was always very suspicious of us all. So we'd go in and just pick up practically everything, and he'd be 2 feet behind us, thinking we were going to put it in our pocket, you know, one of those. So we had our little games in the village. And then when we were younger in the afternoon, we would go to the beach in the morning, we'd come home, have lunch, and have a rest, and then we would go to different families' houses and just play in the play yard. Okay. The adults really didn't want us at the beach in the afternoon. Okay. It was sort of their time. So we did that mostly every afternoon. And then as we got older, of course, and had a little more freedom, we would go from house to house at night and play kick the can. Just, you know, we were just out and about all the time. Very special. Yeah, it was a very special place. And when we raised our 3 kids there, it was very much the same. You know, they would just go off. And at the 6:30 whistle, they had to either call or come home. Okay. You know, and we'd go for hours without ever seeing them, or
without a care.
Right, without a care, yeah. And it's still a very special place.
I'm sure you didn't have any trouble getting into trouble either.
Oh no, we were in trouble all the time. Absolutely, that was the fun of it. We used to sneak out all the time, and yeah, it was great fun.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then my 3 children went to Pine Point, ended up at the schools here. They went to State Street, and then the Williams School, and then they all went off to boarding school. Yeah, so those were kind of the quiet years for us here, but Lyman had opened up his architectural firm in Mystic, and it was just, it's still a great place to live year-round.
And you're still there?
Yeah.
Your property's adjacent to the farmhouse?
Yeah. We built on property that actually wasn't part of the farmhouse originally, and I think the Turnbulls, who own the back house with Gerald, the Smith's house, she and my mom bought our lot for like $6,000 or something. And so then it was my mom's. Yeah, so we built on that. We still all share the same dock across the street. And okay. Yeah.
Oh, your aunts were on your mother's side?
No, they were the Barneys. And they were Margaret and Ann Barney. And I know very little of them. They had a brother, Ned, who also lived with them. And Ned sort of did the work around the inn. I was young when they both died, and I just remember them as being crabby old ladies. But they did take it from the farmhouse to an inn. How has Watch Hill changed? Well, of course it has changed, but I still feel we're very lucky to have not as many changes as a lot of towns and villages have. So, I think the new Ocean House has brought a whole new face to Watch Hill with the advertising and the press and everything else, but that's fine. I don't think Taylor Swift has brought much, I think she's been a very good neighbor.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. And it's sort of nice to see more outsiders come in to the area.
And John Hall said that yesterday, that he knows less of his neighbors today, but
Right.
That's on him. He said he needs to get
Right.
out and
He does. He needs to get out and meet them.
and meet them.
Uh-huh.
That's not a bad thing.
No.
That they're different and they're more seasonal
Right.
than
right.
ever before.
Yep.
Where in the winters, with him growing up,
And Avondale was a lot more year-round.
yeah,
We had, in our little neighborhood, we had the Desalia family, and Shep Simmons' mother and father lived right around the corner from us. And matter of fact, Shep's mom was our nanny in the summer for quite a few years. But we were very close with that family. We had the Lenahans.
yeah,
They were right down the road, and actually the Lenahans got a television set. We were not allowed to have a television set. And so we would spend our afternoons after school at the Lenahans' house.
sure. What a novelty.
Right, and Mrs. Lenahan used to be such a great cook, and yeah, so we were lucky to have lights in the neighborhood. And we had the Cushing family that owned the Lion Gate Inn. And Meredith is still here in town. Okay. And he was the fire chief. And then, of course, we had the garage at the end of the road. Yeah. The old Chief Barber in there.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You mentioned Duncan Cushing.
Yeah.
I remember Duncan.
They were very good neighbors. And then Duncan built another house on the property, and it was maybe his aunts or something that lived there. Okay. Yeah. So that was, and then of course, we did have the fire station up that was built, so there was we didn't feel as isolated as like people on Ocean View Highway.
That's when they moved the fire station from Bay Street
Bay
to
Street.
Watch Hill Road.
Yep, and Bay Street Fire Station used to have the best movies. Mr. Payne used to bring down that movie screen and set it up, and all the kids would go there and watch cartoons. And
Right in the Bay Street lot.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And then they had a wonderful Christmas party every year. And as I was saying before, the fire truck would come around on Christmas morning, and we would be all dressed up for Christmas, and Santa Claus would come up the steps with his bag over his shoulder, and he had forgotten presents for all of us, so he would distribute them then, so that was a big thrill for us.
Sure.
Yeah, it was great. And then, of course, all our summer friends didn't really come back. Some came back at Easter, which was, a thrill to have everybody come back to town. And so it wasn't so bad growing up there. And we did take the bus into town for movies and things like that. But
Things like that. What other reasons did you have to leave the village?
well, of course, when my sister and brother went off to boarding school, I was the only one at home, so I did grocery shopping and stuff like that with my dad. Then when I was 12, my dad died suddenly, and so it was just my mom and I for 1 year, and then I went away to boarding school and left her. But I could come back on weekends if I wanted to, but
I'm sure she enjoyed the break.
Yep, exactly. She had been a single mom long enough.
Wow. I do remember your mom.
Yeah.
Quite something.
She was amazing. And when I hear of people having problems with their mothers, I just couldn't imagine. I mean, she was just incredible to my friends, to
Very proper. She always kept her property so nice.
Oh,
Always,
beautiful. Well, she gardened
you
like
could always find her sweeping the front walk.
right, exactly.
Always.
And she had beautiful gardens which she attended. So she did have help. I can remember when the bus would come, and I think of this now with the crews that come down to take care of people's lawns. At each property, we had one. Wonderful men from Westerly would come down with their shovel or rake on the bus and walk down from the bus and have their bag of lunch with them. And now you see these trailers and leaf blowers, and I think, my God, one guy did this whole property.
My grandfather was one of them.
Was he?
Took the trolley in with my grandfather, my grandmother, and my uncle and father. My grandmother would take my uncle and father to the beach, and my grandfather on weekends cut lawns.
Yeah.
Trimmed by hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Mowed with a real mower.
Absolutely.
Mowed Doc Anderson's lawn.
Oh,
Took him all
oh.
day by hand.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's
Acres. Acres
this
of
one
grass.
man worked for us for years, every day. He'd come in the bus and work and take like the 3:30 bus home. Yep. But those places look beautiful.
They certainly did.
And now when I see one of my gripes in life, those leaf blowers
I know.
and hedge clippers, oh my God, they're there for days. But, you know, it was a great, well, Westerly itself is a great area to grow up in.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Yep. I still love coming home. And then, 25 years ago, we moved to New Zealand for the winter. Yeah, 25 years, I can't believe it.
Why New Zealand?
Well, Lyman and the boys had biked there in the 80s, and he always said, if there's a place, if we decide to do something later, that's where we should go. So, and we loved hiking, and we did a lot of hiking. And so we went to Australia first, and I was a chicken because the snakes are so terrible in Australia, I didn't want to hike there. Then we flew to New Zealand, and after 3 days we looked at each other and said, this is it.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's a perfect place to live. And of course all the kids had, came over at times, and it was wonderful.
What are your winters like there?
It's our summer, they're opposite.
Okay.
So when we get there, it's the spring. So we stay until the summer, and now when we were leaving a couple of weeks ago, the leaves were just turning.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we bought a house there, and we had it for, I think, 9 years. And I would rip up the gardens here, and then go over and put everything back in over there. It was quite the turnaround.
Sure, you get the best of
Yeah,
both
best
seasons.
of both worlds. Exactly.
Very nice.
Yeah, so we're still doing it and still enjoy it. Still out there hiking.
And your children, tell me about them.
Sarah, she went off to Pomfret, and then went to architecture school. And after working for Lyman for one summer, she said, that's it. I cannot sit on the phone and listen, or you can't sit on the phone and have someone talk about what side of the toilet paper roll goes on. Because Sarah said I'd kill him. So she said, she backed out and went to art school. And she had been in Italy. She went to art school in Italy for a couple of years. And now she owns the Marchant Street Inn here in town.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and she's run that for a couple of years for Chuck Royce, and then she bought it. They bought it, she and her husband. Yep, and she's loving that. Graham, our middle son, went to Berkshire School, and then he went to College of the Atlantic, and then out to Montana State to do architecture, and he is an architect. And he's also a bike racer. So he goes all over the world biking.
Wow.
And then Justin, our younger one, lives here part of the year. He owns 3 islands in the village.
Yeah.
And he lives in Bali, where he has a factory that makes his clothing. He's married to a wonderful Balinese girl, and they have a little 7-year-old.
How wonderful.
Yeah, so he goes back in school here in Charlestown, and then back to Bali, goes to school over there. So it's quite a adventurous life for them.
Very
which
nice.
is great, yeah. So in the summer, though, Graham comes out. We're together quite a bit, which is wonderful.
Well, let's see, going back into your life in the village, a couple of world events. We've been in and out of certain wars, and we've had natural disasters come through. 38 was after you, but 54 you were certainly
54, I was certainly there, absolutely. And I worked most of my friends took summer jobs in the village, and there was one shop called Scott's, and it had a men's shop and a women's shop. Came up from Palm Beach, and when the shops in Palm Beach would close, quite a few of them would come up to Watch Hill for the summer. And I did work at Scott's at one point. A lot of my friends worked at Scott's. My sister worked at Ladd's, which was right in the village. But my first job was at Gabrielle's. Okay. Now, Gabrielle was the mother that started, the grandmother really, that started Gabrielle's. And she would sit in the back room on her sewing machine and make the clothes. We would go in early in the season and she'd measure you. Your mother would pick out the fabrics and then she would make the dresses. And she had a daughter named Nan, and they had the fattest dachshund. And my first job, I think I was 12, and I would walk the dachshund. And I think I was like 25 cents an hour. And I would walk that fat dog all over Watch Hill. And of course, everybody knew that she had dachshunds for years. They were just sort of part of the village, these funny fat dachshunds. But then I did take a job at Gabrielle's from probably age 14. And I can remember every summer, at least twice, we would have to empty the store out and take everything upstairs because of the flooding. Okay. So when people talk about the flooding now, it's nothing new. Okay. Any kind of hurricane scare would have to, we all helped everybody take these, all their merchandise out. And most of the owners of the shops, or people that leased the shops, lived upstairs. So I know at Scott's, everything had to be taken up, and yeah, so it was quite a to-do. But, we had a bakery in the village. We had a barber shop in the village. Jesse Holdridge's, I think it was Jesse Holdridge, I could be wrong, but it was a relative of Jesse Holdridge's that had the bakery. We had the barber. There was a wonderful shop called Sophie's, right down near the Narragansett Inn. Just a junk shop, but we'd be in there it was just, and Perry's from Westerly had a shop in the village. Okay. Tilden and Thurber's. But over the summers.
Remember Tilden?
Yep.
Yeah.
Over the summer.
Snuffy's?
Yep, Snuffy's, absolutely. And then, of course, the Olympia Tea Room.
Sure.
And we used to eat there quite a bit. And they would send a bill. You could charge. And they sent a bill once a year. And it was so wrong. I can remember my father just going crazy when this bill would come in. And marched down there, and poor Mike was the bookkeeper, and it was Spiro, Mike, and Teddy. And my father would be screaming and yelling at them. And they'd say, well, that lobster, my father said, my kids don't eat lobster. Never had a lobster. Well, it would be the Burkes. They were the next B's. So, right. So that was always fun. And then, of course, the St. Clair's, with Mrs. Tragus. And
been a staple for a long time.
Oh, my God, yes. Absolutely. Nancy at the fish market, Okay. We knew them all. And Dave Sisson would always, also his mother and sister maybe just two, used to ask us to leave because we'd sit down and read the comic books, and then we just put them back on the rack. So we had a time limit in there.
Who didn't do that as a kid?
Right, exactly. So there was always a time limit put on us. And then I spent a lot of time with my friend Terry Pierce. As I said, she was Mrs. Harkness's daughter. And we did ballet together with the ballet troupe and spent a lot of time with them. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I was very lucky when I moved to New York because she would get tickets to every Broadway show, every opening, and very rarely wanted to go. So Terry and I were always asked to go. So, nice. It was wonderful, wonderful. She was a wonderful person. Yeah, and then we played a lot of tennis. Okay. And the boys all played golf and the normal things.
Yep. Sailing?
Sailing, yep. Spent a lot of time sailing. Yeah. Yep. And, so it was, it was just a perfect summer.
It really was.
Yes, it really was.
Yeah,
we were
so
very lucky. I have a pretty simple formula.
Okay, let's have it.
I don't get too deep into something. I just enjoy having a good time, exercise. I try to stay upright and just have fun. These mothers that used to say to me, oh, I've just read a book about, I said, don't read a book about how you're going to bring your kids up. I don't know, life was easier back then. Just go with it, exactly. And we were very lucky. We've always had a fun life and done a lot of fun things.